Thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with numerous policies that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis. And some of the cases we're talking about would be ending birthright citizenship, which now comes to
The USA has just banned birthright citizenship, at least in these 28 states, starting on July 26th. In the 6-3 court ruling, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of Donald Trump's ban on birthright citizenship.
The Trump White House has just ordered the Justice Department to begin prioritizing denaturalization, meaning stripping citizenship from U.S. citizens.
Hello YouTube family, welcome back to Brilliance React YouTube channel, and today we are going to react to that birthright citizenship in the United States of America. We have seen the President of the United States of America saying that some policies are being enjoyed wrongly with the baby of slaves. He wants to end the USA birthright citizenship. What are your thoughts and comments about this? Kindly note down your opinions. I'll react to them at the end of the video, and thank you for the love. Thank you for watching my episodes. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share and comment down below. Let's get to watch this video.
Thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with numerous policies that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis. And some of the cases we're talking about would be ending birthright citizenship, which now comes to the fore. That was meant for the babies of slaves. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country on a vacation. Hundreds of thousands of people are pouring into our country under birthright citizenship, and it wasn't meant for that reason. It was meant for the babies of slaves. And we can now promptly file to proceed with these numerous policies and those that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis, including birthright citizenship, ending sanctuary city funding, suspending refugee resettlement, freezing unnecessary funding, stopping federal taxpayers from paying for transgender surgeries, and numerous other priorities of the American people.
Based on what the Supreme Court did today, if anybody is having any conversations around birthright citizenship or citizenship as a whole, if you do not know who this man is, you should be ashamed of yourself. Because it's as a result of Dred Scott that birthright citizenship can exist. Dred Scott was enslaved by a U.S. Army surgeon by the name of Dr. John Emerson. Emerson took Mr. Scott to an area which would be considered between Illinois and Wisconsin, which at the time slavery was illegal. When Emerson died, Dred Scott tried to buy his and his wife's freedom from Emerson's widow, to which she refused. And this man, in the 1800s, sued her. This black man's case went to the Supreme Court in the 1800s. And one of the most infamous quotes that sets the precedence for how we are still treated in this country till this day as black Americans was stated by Chief Justice Robert B. Taney, that black people have no rights that a white man is bound to respect. The Dred Scott ruling of 1857 said that black people were not citizens, and that we were not even allowed to sue in federal court, that Congress had no power to ban slavery, which invalidated the Missouri Compromise, and that Mr. Dred Scott had no legal standing, although he was in a state where enslavement was illegal. Dred Scott passed 1 year later, never to have seen the abolishment of slavery in the 13th Amendment, nor the rise of birthright citizenship with the 14th Amendment. So let him be a reminder that citizenship has always been racialized and contested.
We also have a lot of bad people that have been here for a long time. People that whack people over the head with a baseball bat from behind when they're not looking and kill them. People that knife you when you're walking down the street. They're not new to our country. They're old to our country. Many of them were born in our country. I think we ought to get them the hell out of here too. You want to know the truth. So maybe that'll be the next job that we'll work on together. But I think getting them out, we forget about them. We had some bad accidents in New York, and they're not accidents.
In 30 days from now, people born in the U.S. will no longer automatically be Americans. You will have to have an American father or mother, or have a father or mother with a green card. This means undocumented migrants and foreign visitors will no longer be able to give birth to someone and have that child get American citizenship. Donald Trump made this rule a couple of months ago, and it was put on hold by federal courts. But as of this morning, the Supreme Court announced in just the past couple of minutes that Trump's rule for citizenship will take effect. It is common for something called birth tourism to happen in America until 30 days from now. It's not explicitly made illegal by a federal law, but the people in charge of tourist visas in America have updated their regulations to deny tourist visas to people whose primary purpose for travel is birth tourism. And now Donald Trump's rule applies too.
New civil enforcement priorities by the Justice Department came out, and they're going to start concentrating on denaturalizing people. They're going to target people who they think are terrorists, people who committed war crimes, who are national security risks, people who had felonies and didn't disclose it on their naturalization applications, people who committed fraud in their naturalization, people who committed violent crimes, sex offenses, human trafficking. The key thing to know about all of this is that it is extraordinarily difficult to denaturalize somebody. It's not a simple process. It takes years and years and years. It has to go through a federal judge, and then there's federal appeals. And they can't denaturalize you for anything you did after you became a U.S. citizen. Only if you were not qualified to become a U.S. citizen because you didn't disclose something to the government that they otherwise should have known about as part of the process of determining whether to naturalize you to a U.S. citizen. 99.99% of the people watching this video who are naturalized citizens have nothing to worry about. So on day one of Donald Trump's presidency, he issued an executive order. If you are born in the United States and one of your parents is not at least a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident, you're not a U.S. citizen. 22 states filed a lawsuit against Donald Trump saying this is illegal. A federal judge agreed and issued a nationwide injunction saying this executive order can't go into effect. And Trump appealed. Not whether his ban on birthright citizenship is legal or not. He appealed that a federal judge can't make this nationwide injunction while they're litigating this case out. And the Supreme Court decided with Donald Trump. So they haven't ended birthright citizenship. They didn't make a decision on that. What they have said is, if you are a child born in the United States in one of these 22 states that brought a lawsuit, that injunction continues. You will be considered a U.S. citizen. You will get your benefits as a U.S. citizen, whether it's your birth certificate, your social security number, Medicaid, food stamps, whatever you're entitled to. But if you're a child born in the United States, in any of these other 28 states that did not bring a lawsuit, the Republican states, in 30 days from now, you will not get any benefits. You will not get your birth certificate, presumably, nor a social security number, nor Medicaid, nor food stamps. You won't be considered a U.S. citizen, perhaps even deportable. Baby deportable, imagine. The Supreme Court gave 30 days. So that means nothing happens over the next 30 days. So if you happen to be lucky to be born by July 27th, 2025, you're a U.S. citizen. You don't have to worry about anything. But after July 27th, you have to rely on new litigation that's expected. And they're going to make it a class action and make an injunction for each of those particular litigants, every person who's part of this class action, that Trump's ban on birthright citizenship is illegal until a final decision is made by the Supreme Court of the United States. So now, if you're an undocumented immigrant, even if you're legal on a student visa, and you give birth to a U.S. citizen in one of the non-28 states that joined the original lawsuit, you have to hope that there is a class action lawsuit. You have to know about that class action lawsuit. You have to be smart enough to join that class action lawsuit in order for your child to be considered a U.S. citizen until the U.S. Supreme Court makes a decision on Trump's birthright citizenship ban.
The Justice Department is now aggressively prioritizing efforts to strip naturalized U.S. citizens of their citizenship. NPR's Jacqueline Diaz reports the DOJ is focused on cases where naturalized American citizens commit certain crimes.
The new stance towards naturalized citizens who commit crimes is laid out in a memo from the Justice Department to its Civil Division employees. Those crimes could include anything from national security incidents to cases of fraud, according to the memo. According to 2023 data, 25 million immigrants are naturalized U.S. citizens. Denaturalization has existed for decades and was used widely to deport citizens accused of being communists during the 1950s. Some immigration attorneys have expressed concerns over this expanded denaturalization effort, questioning whether it is constitutional and how the families of naturalized citizens would be impacted. Jacqueline Diaz, NPR News.
We have some breaking news coming from the Supreme Court this Friday morning. It has been ruled by the Supreme Court in a 6-3 decision that the lower courts do not have the authority to put a blanketed injunction across Donald Trump's executive orders. In this case, it was ending birthright citizenship, where there is no authority to grant birthright citizenship to children born of illegal residents or non-citizens. What the Supreme Court has said was they didn't determine whether this was a violation of the 14th Amendment and whether or not it was constitutional, but rather they ruled on the fact that lower federal courts cannot put blanketed injunctions and stop executive orders. Congress has never given them that authority. So that really speaks to what we've seen happen in the lower courts over the last few months since Trump has taken office. So that is still to be heard by the Supreme Court. And based on some of these rulings that we've seen over the last several weeks, I do think that the Supreme Court is going to rule on the fact that lower courts just do not have the constitutional authority to override executive orders. So going forward, the federal courts, is particularly in this case of birthright citizen, only have jurisdiction within their states and within those plaintiffs specifically. What are your thoughts on this ruling and how do you feel about it? Do you think that the lower courts have been overstepping their authority? Or do you think that this is, important in checks and balances?
What I can say is this. Y'all eating with this Black American history on here since yesterday. I have learned so much. I am ready for the comments. Okay? And it's like one of those things like, no, I'm not completely ignorant to the fact of Black American history. But when people come in here and put puzzle pieces in the places that I've been trying to fit pieces in that don't fit, and it start all making sense, it's like, oh, okay. So yeah, you know what I'm saying? Whoever got whatever, come on, continue to go off. Because like I said, I am enjoying learning my Black American history on this app. Amen.
Birthright citizenship was meant for the babies of slaves. Oh, okay, we're good then, right? We can stay. Ugh, no. Was the black that birthed you a slave? And I don't mean that new age slavery crap you're talking about with us only paying you pennies and minimum wage and not being able to afford things. Of course my mother wasn't a slave. Slavery supposedly ended a long time ago, right? See, so you're not a slave. Even you admit it. So that means we can deport you up out of this country too. That's why we've been working on deporting people to countries that they weren't born in. You're gonna end up back in Africa. But I'm not from Africa. I've never been to Africa before in my entire life. Oh, I can't hear you over that plane that's ready to fly to Africa. Don't worry, once you land on the continent, you'll just become African again. And as soon as your feet touch Africa, all of your instincts will come back and you'll build spears and start hunting animals. It's all starting to come together. The puzzle pieces are there. I mean, you already said that demon Stephen Miller, the chair, would want a country that doesn't resemble anybody other than white people. See, you're getting it. Now you blacks know that you're going back to. Can you start with the black MAGAs first? I really want to see how they'll react. Deal. I've been waiting to get them up out of here anyways.
They are not bringing back slavery with whips and plantations. They are bringing it back through paperwork, policy, executive orders, and silence. This isn't new. This is a recycled playbook, and it's already been written in blood. I once heard a Jewish woman tell the story of the night of broken glass, Crystal Nat. That was the moment when Nazis went out and shattered the windows of Jewish homes, schools, and businesses. Synagogues were set on fire. People were attacked in the street. And no one came to help. That was a turning point. Because when the Nazis saw that no one intervened, no neighbors, no allies, no other governments, they knew they could take it further. That was the green light for the Holocaust. What started with broken glass ended in genocide. That same pattern is being used right here, right now. They tested it on immigrants, people with foreign names, people of color who could be quietly disappeared from schools, homes, hospitals, airports, people dragged from their lives and deported to countries they didn't even come from. No trials, no oversight, no justice, just unchecked power. And when no one came to stop it, they knew they could push further. Because the real target was never them. It was always us. Black people. Immigrants were the test subjects to dress rehearsal, but the main act was always about revoking our rights, our citizenship, our existence. Birthright citizenship is next on the chopping block. And understand, the 14th Amendment wasn't created to serve immigrants. It was created to correct the crime of slavery, to finally recognize us, the descendants of the enslaved, as citizens, as humans. To undo that amendment is to undo Black humanity. To erase us without having to say it outright. Because once you are not considered legal, they can lock you up, strip you down, put you to work, and no one will question it. It'll all be by the book. But that book is being rewritten daily. That's how you bring back slavery without ever saying the word. Now they're talking about reputable farmers taking responsibility for their workers. Excuse me? That's not employment. That's ownership. That's rebranding plantations in plain sight. They're even building camps again, facilities with no clear purpose, no oversight, and no timeline for release. Ask yourself, why do you need camps for citizens? That is not about safety. This is about power. And while all this is happening, while constitutional rights are being shredded and democracy hangs on by a thread, here comes Elon Musk, finally saying there's a big evil bill being passed that's going to take from the citizens and give to the rich. Really? You don't get to sound the alarm now. You helped build the machine. You gave Trump a platform. You amplified propaganda. You played a part in rigging the discourse and possibly the vote. Now, when it's convenient, you want to pretend to be neutral, a concerned bystander. No. You are complicit. You are part of the rot. You are not a savior. You are a silent partner. And let's be real. If you had the power to undo what's happening and you chose not to, then you're choosing the side of oppression. And when the reckoning comes, may it come for everyone responsible. Because Trump is not original. He's following the same strategy used by Hitler, Mussolini, Franco, Pinochet. Take away rights little by little, test your violence on smaller groups, silence the press, dismantle the courts, stack the judges, eliminate oversight. Then when it's time, go at the people you were really targeting all along. That's where we are now. So don't tell me I'm overreacting. Don't tell me it's just politics. Don't tell me to wait and see. I've seen enough. They are trying to enslave us again. And this time, it will look legal. It will sound lawful. It will come wrapped in national security and jobs and public safety. But it's slavery, nonetheless. And I want to be clear, I am not afraid. Because I was raised with Psalms. I was raised with prophecy. The Bible already warned us. It said they would use the law to oppress the people. That wickedness would prosper for a moment. But it also said that Jehovah would become king. That no man would sit on the throne that belonged to God. And that's why I still believe in justice. But even still, I'm not just praying. Because even God used people. He used Moses. He used Deborah. He used David. He raised warriors when the time came. So maybe today, he's raising you. This is not just political, it's spiritual, it's psychological, it's cultural, and it's legal. So if you think your degree, your job title, or your neighborhood will protect you, think again. This system is being restructured so that none of that matters. We are watching the erasure of black citizenship in real time. And we've seen it before. So I'll end it with this. We will not be the new victims of an old system. We will not be the ghosts of Tulsa or Oscarville or Seneca Village. This is not 1921. We are not unarmed. We are not isolated. We are not unaware. We are watching, recording, organizing, and ready. This time, we will not go quietly. This time, we will not go back. And this time, we fight.
Conversation around birthright citizenship is so intriguing to me because I've studied this historically, I've taught this in government classes, and its intended purpose was to protect African Americans and the children, the babies of African Americans from the status of slavery. And now we're talking about it because of non-citizens, because of illegal immigrants, because of undocumented immigrants. Since the court case that happened yesterday with Trump v. Casa, I feel like this conversation is really heating up. It is needed. This conversation is so needed. We truly need the Supreme Court to decide who this was truly intended for. The 14th Amendment's original intent was to protect formerly enslaved African Americans, to protect their children, granting them citizenship. And today we see the context of the 14th Amendment being stretched way beyond its initial context. Seen under the Biden administration, they failed miserably at protecting our borders, allowing illegal immigration to persist, crossing ports of entry, overstaying their visas. And we see that some of these illegal immigrants are having children. And in a lot of cases, these illegal immigrants who are having children in the United States are able to benefit off of government assistance. Obviously, we see that the 14th Amendment is being exploited because there's this collision of illegal activity reaping the benefits from our Constitution that was meant to protect us. And this is what we're going to see the Supreme Court decide in months to come. Does the 14th Amendment guarantee legal citizenship to children of parents with illegal status? And let's not pretend that this conversation is foreign, because globally, most of the world either one, does not grant citizenship automatically to children born of undocumented parents, or two, they may grant citizenship depending on the legality of the parent within the country.
This shouldn't even be a conversation. I don't even know what we're debating, right? And to be honest with you, it's not even a debate. This is obviously a loophole that has been left open intentionally by liberals and Democrats for what reason? I don't know. Maybe it's laziness. But then when you combine it with the fact that there was an egregious amount of people, it was almost like a flood. The floodgates was open, the dam broke, and you had an influx of more, probably tens of millions of illegal migrants, most of which we can't even estimate who really came over here, coming to the United States of America, which at the time was being enforced in multiple different states that you couldn't even really move around. During the time where the pandemic was happening, it just seems even more disrespectful to the majority of the people here in the United States of America that the 14th Amendment shouldn't even exist anymore, because there are no more slaves and no more people that need to be legal based off of slavery.
Trump's DOJ just dropped a new rule. If you have ever, 1, used SNAP or Medicaid and made a mistake, you can now get deported. If you have ever been affiliated with a gang, even if it was decades ago, you can now get deported. If you have ever lied on any immigration forms or been accused of any fraud, even if it's civil stuff like PPP loans, you can now get deported. If you have ever had any charges tied to violence, trafficking, or terrorism, you can now get deported. They can now use any of these things to revoke your U.S. citizenship, not deportation, full citizenship removal. And don't forget, y'all, we've seen this movie before. Y'all remember how they told us ICE was only going after the worst of the worst, just the gang leaders or the cartel members? Then what happened? They started snatching up people outside of gas stations, outside of schools, even detaining legal immigrants for paperwork issues. No due process, no warning, just blacked out SUVs and guys in masks. This is exactly how it starts, y'all. We're only going after the bad guys. But now they're saying if you made a mistake, even if it was 10 years ago, if you needed help feeding your children and didn't report something right, they're going to weaponize your past to decide if you get to stay a citizen or not.
Donald Trump is calling to deport U.S. citizens who were born here. Yep, out loud, he said that maybe it's time to get rid of some of the people who were born here. Now, he's referring to criminals and people who do very bad things. I guess that doesn't apply to 34 felonies. But yes, that is where we're at here in the US today. We have a president calling for the deportation of US citizens. This comes on the heels of him visiting a migrant detention center in the Everglades that is referred to as Alligator Alcatraz, where he has said that the alligators can do their job and deal with any escapees. If that is not cruel and unusual punishment, I don't know what is. So this is what we're dealing with here in the US. We have a completely unhinged president who does not care about the Constitution whatsoever. And we are only in the first year.
The Trump White House has just ordered the Justice Department to begin prioritizing denaturalization, meaning stripping citizenship from U.S. citizens. The order outlines the new priorities for Trump's Justice Department. Number 1, of course, is ending diversity, equity, and inclusion. But the part we care about is this list of 10 points about ordering them to prioritizing denaturalizing U.S. citizens. The order outlines 10 priority categories for denaturalization. The first 5 seem relatively banal. It's stuff like terrorism or war crimes. But you quickly realize when you get a little lower down, stuff like fraud for Medicaid could be something that could get your citizenship stripped. Or number 10, which I will read in full, any other cases referred to the civil division that the division determines to be sufficiently important to pursue. And immediately after that, it includes the line, these categories do not limit the civil division from pursuing any particular case, meaning that the Trump Justice Department will determine who they're going to pursue, and they're allowing themselves the leeway to pursue any case that they themselves determine is important to the Trump administration. Keep in mind, we are already in a situation where they are declaring people who support Palestine as being members of terrorist organizations because merely they support the rights of Palestinians to exist. We are also seeing this happen where they're accusing left-wing organizers of being literal foreign agents, including one of my friends. I also need to emphasize this goes way, way beyond Trump wanting to end birthright citizenship. This is not just people who would lose their citizenship who are birthright citizens. This would affect potentially any American citizen, and they could all be under threat of losing their citizenship. And this is coming in the same week that the Supreme Court has given Trump huge victory and massive more legal protection in pursuing his most illegal actions by blocking lower court judges from issuing national injunctions. And this comes in the same week that the Trump budget is about to pass, which will give ICE a budget equivalent to the sixth largest military on earth. Just the budget for new deportation camps is literally tens of billions. If you need a historical perspective, it took over a year for the Nazis in 1935 to pass the Nuremberg laws. Trump has skipped ahead about a year and a half. For people like me and my family who are on the bleeding edge of losing our citizenship because of Donald Trump, this is a 5-alarm fire. If this isn't fascism, I don't know what is.
The USA has just banned birthright citizenship, at least in these 28 states starting on July 26th. In the 6-3 court ruling, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of Donald Trump's ban on birthright citizenship. Now, the reason why it's not the whole country is because these states right here, the ones that are not in red, currently have pending litigations and lawsuits against Donald Trump. But regardless, starting July 26th, if you're born in any of these states in the red, you are not eligible for birthright citizenship. So if you plan on having kids or are going to have a kid in the near future, rethink where you're going to give birth. My next message is for Latinos for Trump. We all know that many of you guys are recipients and beneficiaries of birthright citizenship. Many, if not most, Latinos for Trump have undocumented family members or undocumented parents. Although this might not affect you right now, you're next on the chopping block. But regardless, maybe the USA has the president it deserves. And I hope that everybody that voted for that man is happy for what they voted for. I'm just genuinely grateful and happy that I don't live in the US. But anyways, let me know what you guys think.
Okay, so we have some pretty serious breaking news. The Supreme Court has greenlit Donald Trump's ban on birthright citizenship in some parts of the country. So, if you're unaware, in January, the Trump administration passed an executive order stating that the children of undocumented immigrants born in America are not citizens. Now, this is very obviously unconstitutional, as the 14th Amendment literally says all people born in this country are U.S. citizens. So after the Trump administration passed this executive order, federal courts around the country ruled it as unconstitutional, and we had a nationwide ban for that reason. But today, the Supreme Court was able to greenlight that EO in some parts of the country by ruling that those federal courts that instituted the nationwide ban by saying it was unconstitutional do not have the jurisdiction or authority to institute nationwide bans and can only institute regional bans. So let me be clear, they didn't rule that Donald Trump's executive order banning birthright citizenship was constitutional. It's obviously not constitutional. It's in clear violation of the plain text of the 14th Amendment. They just simply ruled that the courts lower than them don't have the jurisdiction to implement a nationwide ban on the matter. So unless they rule that it's unconstitutional, it'll be indefinitely legal in some parts of the country.
The United States government is starting to prepare to take citizenship away from people. This is not an entirely new phenomenon called denaturalization, but we are about to see a ramp up in this process and procedure like we have never seen before. And it is particularly dangerous because of the approach that they're going to use. The Department of Justice has announced that it intends to ramp up its denaturalization procedures to try to find and take away the citizenship of certain immigrants in the United States of America. This, as we know, and we have seen with every other act of the administration, is going to start small and then grow exponentially. Revoking citizenship is a core constitutional concern. In fact, there's a case from 1958, and one of the most famous quotes from that is, "Citizenship is not a license that expires upon misbehavior." But this administration and this Department of Justice are about to ramp up a large-scale attempt to denaturalize people who are not naturally born citizens, and remove and revoke their citizenship and ostensibly deport them. Now, this is largely because their immigration efforts and deportation efforts have failed, and they have failed to meet their consistently unrealistically high deportation targets. And so it's easier to go after people who have criminal histories because they can find them, they can denaturalize them, and they can deport them. But the line between taking away a naturalized citizenship and taking away a natural-born citizenship is a straight line. And if you don't think that it can come for you, you are wrong. And history tells us this. And of course, before we review that, let us not forget that they are fundamentally attacking the idea of what it means to be a natural-born citizen via birthright citizenship. The core fundamental right of your citizenship is only guaranteed because you think it is guaranteed and because there has never been an attempt in the past to take it away. But in Germany, in the 30s and 40s, this was one of the first things that they did to chill political dissent. In 1933, they passed the Enabling Act in Germany, which allowed them to pass laws that specifically violated the Constitution. They systematically downgraded or changed citizenship status across Germany for people who they deemed unworthy of loyal citizenship. The Enabling Act allowed Germany to pass laws which violated the Constitution, and some of those laws allowed them to fundamentally change and take away citizenship, and they used this as a weapon to attack critics of the government. And in the United States, the Department of Justice is choosing a particularly pernicious way to do this. They're taking denaturalization to civil court, which means if your citizenship is challenged by this government, you are fundamentally not guaranteed a lawyer. You are not guaranteed a lawyer in a civil proceeding. So the government can try to take away your citizenship, and if you cannot afford a lawyer, you are going to have a very difficult time challenging that. Regardless of your thoughts on this government is fundamentally trying to change the definition of what it means to be a citizen. And they are making the loyalty test loyalty to this administration, which is something we all must resist.
Perspective about this is that birthright citizenship means that anyone that is being born in the United States automatically becomes the United States baby child citizen. This involves the children of the immigrants, and also regardless of the status of their legal status of their parents. There is that right that is guaranteed according to the 14th Amendment law, which states that anyone being born in the United States is subjected to jurisdiction and therefore is a citizen of the United States of America. This law is a direct step towards equality, and ending citizenship means that there will be a whole new class of stateless people and children in the United States of America, and this will affect the community. The people will lack a place to call it a legal home. What are your thoughts about this? Is it the right time to end the citizenship, or should the birthright citizenship being protected? Kindly comment down below, and then don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and see you on to the next one. Thank you.